Hello, and welcome to What's Possible, Conversations with World-Class Coaches. Today, I am joined by my friend and SBC coach, Niels Gott. Niels, welcome.
Hello, I'm excited to be here.
Well, happy to have you. So a few things about Niels before we get rolling. One is he is a 22-year career military, which with that, Niels brings a wealth of experience and education and hands-on training, I would say. We were talking yesterday actually about just working with senior leaders and just the parallels between those upper echelons at the military that Niels has extensive experience working with, and the resilience training, all that stuff we learn in positive psychology that Niels lived, slept, ate, and breathed. Does that sound fair, Niels?
100%, and still do to this day.
Yes. So, and along those lines, after eating, sleeping, and breathing, resilience and positive psychology that was woven in through the military, Niels went on to get his practitioner certification in positive psychology. He is a leadership development coach with SBC. Also a proud dad of 3. And we were just talking about, I think perhaps that's your hardest job so far, is the twins plus a baby. Would that be tougher than the military?
Hands down. Absolutely. There's no question.
So it's so funny. Just when you think you hit your peak of, oh, I've never done anything harder, you become a parent.
That is the true test of your character and your resilience, I might add.
Very true. Real world experience. So, Niels, I am excited about your topic today because it's a topic we don't talk a ton about. It is something that we do talk a lot about in positive psychology, and it is so powerful. So today's topic is awe. And that Niels said, I would love to talk about awe. It's one of my favorite things to discuss. So before we dive deep in playing in the space of awe, can you explain what awe is and the definition that you use for it?
Absolutely. I think that what's fascinating about awe is that it's one of the most uniquely human experiences, at least as far as we know. We can't really use language with other species, but it's what I see as uniquely human. So about 20 years ago, Keltner and Haidt came up with a definition of awe that I keep in mind today, and it includes 2 key factors. First, it requires a sense of perceptual vastness. This can be in number, size, scope, complexity, something that gives us a sense of scale. But the second qualifier that they added is that it requires us to alter our assumptions about the world, about events, about people. So it's not just this thing that makes us zoom out, but makes us recognize there's something else at play here that we might not have been conscious to before.
Yeah. I love that extra piece that you added on, because we do often think it's, walking out to the beach and just having this, oh my gosh, look at the sunset, look at this, just it's this feeling of awe, but you don't think about how it shifts that assumption. Can you dive a little deeper into that piece of it? I'd love you to share.
Well, I'm going to reach way back for a story that it plays on that a little bit. So I'm thinking about when I was a kid, actually in high school, we took a trip to Chicago on a choir trip, and we got to go to the Rockefeller Chapel and go up into the choir's loft. We'd been working on some Renaissance music, and so we had a chance to take our position up in the loft and start singing this piece. And we were only a handful of bars in. And so as this beautiful music soars out into the chapel, all of a sudden the reverb started coming back at us. And it's giving me chills right now, just remembering it. We totally lost our space. Our jaws just dropped, and we all just kind of looked around, and then we all just started to laugh. Because what just happened? Because it's just this incredible harmony that made us all feel connected as human beings. And so when I talk about awe, that's what I think about, because we'll talk a little more, I'm sure, about how we can experience awe and how we can set the conditions for it. But it doesn't always require something like that takes our breath away. Awe can be much more accessible. And to me, the real key is that it can help us find that connection as human beings. So we felt that as kiddos, while we were playing with this music. But we can find that in our everyday lives, whether it's at the workplace or whether it's with teams or with our families. We can find it in all parts of our lives.
Yeah. Wow, that story kind of took my breath away. I mean, my eyes welled up with tears. Like I could feel it for you there. And just, I think that's that other piece of awe is it fills you up with emotion that's almost inexplainable. It's like, why do I feel so emotional? And I think that's a piece of awe that we also forget, because just hearing your story, that emotional contagion that I felt for you. Yeah. Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I say it's a uniquely human experience, because I think that we as humans are the only species that quite get that sense. Of course, it's a little bit anthropomorphic of me to assume that we're the only ones sentient enough to experience that, but that's the world that I know, and that's the world that I understand. But again, I think it's key to what it means to be a human being, to have that experience.
Yeah. There are two things that you said that I want to play in. And so you pick where you want to go with this one. One is setting up the conditions. I like that terminology because it puts us in control of creating awe experiences. So I'd love to hear more about that. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on that connectivity piece that we also can easily forget is a piece of awe. So where do you want to roll first?
Well, thanks for the choose your own adventure. I love that.
Door A or door B? What do you choose?
Well, let's start with the conditions. And the only pushback I might offer is that I don't think that we're in control of it. We can set the conditions where we might be more available to experience awe, and it's more possible, but it's not something you can force into being. And that's the other thing that I'm always fascinated by, because it's such a transcendental experience when we do get there, but we can't quite push it into being. So with that disclaimer out there, some of the things that we can do, and this is what I've learned through the Flourishing Center, to be honest, but some of the things that can make that possible are just take the scenic route. Oftentimes our brains are great at forming habits. And so we might have a particular, if we drive to work as we try to climb out of this post-pandemic world, at least when I think back to before that, when I would drive to work, that route became so burned into my brain that it was autopilot. I didn't have to think about it. So whatever we can do to shake ourselves loose of that routine by literally taking the scenic route can help introduce us to the novelty where it can be more possible. Just getting outside. That's one of the things that I love. Being a Minnesotan, I'm very proud of the Northwoods and the lakes that we've got. And I get up to the Boundary Waters every year. And I make a point of getting up there every year, specifically because without fail, I feel awe when I'm up there. I'm thinking about just last year, the last morning when we woke up, the weather, we were a little bit early in the spring, so it was a little bit crisp, which is weather that I love, where there's just a little bit of bite in the air. The mist coming off of the lake just was so breathtaking. It was like a Bob Ross painting as I'm looking out over the beautiful pine trees that just framing the lake and this beautiful mist coming off of it. So anyway, nature is full of opportunities to experience awe. So just getting outside, turning your gaze upward. So I talked about awe requiring a sense of scale. What's bigger than the universe? My mind can't comprehend, a scale bigger than that. So just literally looking at the stars, or perhaps if you're lucky enough to see the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights, those kinds of things can set the conditions for awe. Getting in a crowd, getting back to that sense of scale, sometimes being that size of just other human life, being in a crowd can set the conditions for it. You might see that at a musical venue if you're in some kind of a concert. Getting inspired. And I think of getting inspired as being closely related to incredible performances, whether it's artistic or even physical performance. And right away, I can't help but think of Team Hoyt, Dick and Rick Hoyt, who did over 1,000 races together. And just a quick primer for anybody that's going off on a tangent. So you need to reel me back if this is where you want to go.
Keep it rolling. I'm in awe just listening. So
well, fantastic. Nicely done. But for those that you can absolutely Google this, but in about 1970. So Rick was born with cerebral palsy. Dick was the father. And in about 1977, they went on their first 5K together. And they finished next to last. But at the end of that race, Rick told his father that when I'm running with you, I don't feel like I'm handicapped. And so that so inspired Dick that they went on, and that's why it's called Team Hoyt. They completed over 1,000 events together, including a pile of marathons, triathlons. I believe 6 were the full Ironman distance triathlons. And so just incredible physical accomplishment. And so that's one of those things that makes me feel awe again, thinking about the commitment and just the love that Dick had for his son. So it's the love that makes me feel inspired, but it's that incredible physical accomplishment. I mean, I love marathons. I've run probably about 13 myself, but I've yet to do a triathlon, much less an Ironman triathlon. And so he really took it to the next level with his kiddo.
Wow. And just even that dialogue between them, that out of body experience to feel like I feel like someone else, and for you to watch. Wow. Powerful. And I think you captured in a few of these different things, whether it's even that story or taking the scenic road home, whatever it is, there's something about the novelty and unexpectedness. It's not, we get in a rut of, you watch, the same kind of athlete compete the same kind of thing over and over again. And it can be awe-inspiring, but when you tweak it a little bit and you see something like what you just experienced, this father-son duo, it like takes it to a whole nother level. Or you drive home the same way all the time. You just make one right turn and then weave through a different, it opens up your mind to, yeah.
So well said. And I think that that's the thing that I would most want people to recognize is that awe is available in our everyday lives if we just set the conditions and are open to it. We can have these incredible grand experiences, but also just that novelty as our brains in a state of being able to accept it and being aware of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think also on the heels of the pandemic, and for so long, we were cooped up in the same 4 walls, the same people in your home. There wasn't a lot of novelty. There wasn't a lot of newness or different for so long. And I remember myself, even just when I would get out of the house and take a walk in a new area or an area I hadn't been to in a long time because I was so cooped up. I felt like the whole world opened up, and it makes your body tingle, your brain, just like you feel like the neural pathways, everything's firing.
So well said. Oh, I'm 100% with you. And as you know, I actually moved a few months back. And so now I'm a little bit in the country on 10 acres. And as you're describing that, I'm feeling that same as how cooped up I was feeling and that desire to get out. And now that I'm in the country, as fall, as the seasons were changing, I got to go for a walk on this path that's just near my house. And I can still picture just the feeling of the air and the color of the leaves. I love the season change and fall in particular. But I remember looking up through the treetops and just seeing the sunlight dapple through the leaves as they were starting to fall and the colors. And so, yeah, I'm riffing on that whole idea, but I absolutely love the sense of newness that comes with trying to break out of how cooped up we've been. I think metaphorically, we've been very cooped up for a long time.
So true. And even I remember my sister and I took a drive to go visit a friend. I'm based in San Diego, as you know, and we went to go visit a friend in Las Vegas. And it was during the period of the pandemic. And it was right after you were literally only in your bubble, but it was kind of that next level where you were still kind of only in your bubble, but maybe you brought in a couple other people that had also tested. So we're in that space. And we were driving from San Diego to Las Vegas, and even just being on a different freeway, I was like, wow, look, and it's just something like that can really just make you feel in a different space.
Exactly. Well done.
Yeah. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about the accessibility, because I think often we as coaches, as people who are constantly trying to support, whether it's our leaders, if we're working from executive coaching perspective or even life coaching, we're trying to support humans in really being able to continue to be the best version of themselves, live a life that feels as full as possible, meaningful, purposeful. And it can often feel daunting, quite frankly, as somebody's like, I'm just trying to stay afloat. And so we want to crack that door open for them ever so slightly. What would you say is almost I'll call it lowest hanging fruit, but just to create some accessibility to a sense of awe? If somebody's feeling like, I don't have a lot of space in my life, and now you want me to do this awe thing. So what might somebody do?
Well, I love that invitation to sort of remove the pressure a little bit and to give ourselves some license. I want to get back to the novelty idea as well. As you're posing that question, I was actually thinking about earlier today. I was lucky enough to have this incredible conversation, and I felt so good after the call that I went outside for a minute. And so I'm right on Main Street in Stillwater, and which is a river town, a beautiful St. Croix River, and there's these steps right up from Main Street. And I used to run those in the summer. And I thought, I'm just going to go for a walk up the stairs, and got my heart pumping a little bit. And I was about halfway up the stairs, and there's this landing. And I look up the remaining steps. There's something like 80 of these concrete steps, kind of a steep incline. And the sun was right at the top of the staircase. And it was this incredible, it was almost like trying to watch an eclipse, the way that you just get the sunlight coming at you. And so I was just sort of struck by the metaphor of climbing into the unknown, but an appreciation for the beauty of nature that's all around us. And so I'm just sharing that story as an invitation to just be present to what's around you. Because I totally hear that this is just one more thing. Oh, great. Now you want me to be transcendental on top of everything else we're trying to climb out of. But it doesn't have to be that hard, because I think really getting our minds into a state of play, and that's where that novelty is so important, just being open and being present to what's around us. And I think for a lot of our clients, that's one of the keys to being our best selves and being the best leaders that we can be is being present. I realize that can be a tall order sometimes with everything that we're facing and all the pressures that we're under. But I think that's why we focus on some of the things like stretching and breathing, where it's just a moment to reconnect somatically so that we can be present. But that's what I think about, because everyone has all kinds of pressure all the time. And so how can we give ourselves license to play a little bit and see what's possible?
Yeah. And when we give ourselves license to play a little bit, when we take an extra 2 minutes to walk up those steps, to experience that sense of awe, you walk back into your office space and your brain is in a totally different place, which allows you to be more productive, more creative, think out of the box, on and on and on. And so I think oftentimes we think when we're sinking at work or sinking at life, I just need to put my head down. I just need to get through this. And, you're on the typewriter. Okay, I just did it myself.
I get where you're coming from. That's how I learned to type, was a typewriter.
I'm just trying to connect with you and that sense of awe that we have computers now. But you're typing on the keyboard, your head's down, and we think that that's going to make us stronger, bigger, better. When in fact, if we look up, we take a moment to get grounded, get present. And oftentimes that's just stepping outside for a moment to reset and have that feeling of awe. You come back so much more capable.
So true. And the field of positive psychology has shown us there's research that shows two things I'm thinking of right away, that when we just try to power through, like you're describing, we're not doing our best work because we're starting to get into that scarcity mindset and that place of fear. The research definitely shows us that we don't do our best work when we're operating from a place of fear. So whatever we can do to take a quick reset, recognize that the universe is abundant, it gives us a chance to show up differently, to realize what is possible, to tap into that resilience. The other thing that I'm thinking about is that the research also shows that positive emotions, and part of why I care so much about positive psychology, actually can help reduce stress. And so there's empirical evidence that shows, and this isn't we're not trying to pour on more pressure, of course, that you have to be happy all the time, because positive psychology is not happyology. But those positive emotions can help reduce stress and inflammation in the body. And so there's definite health benefits to tapping into that resilience and figuring out how we can be more curious. That's the other thing that I love about this field, is just being curious.
Yeah. And those positive emotions, we do feel those when we have a sense of awe. And then you go into Barb Fredrickson's work, where it's that broaden and build. And when you get that positive emotion, you start to be able to expand versus narrow and constrict. And it makes me think, just this last weekend, my husband and I went up just for a quick overnight to Los Angeles. Again, a new place, without seeing the same houses, stores, whatever, back to back in San Diego. We had a fresh place to go to, just walking to the beach. We did a hike one day, and literally we'd never been. And so there was that excitement and kind of that curiosity of, what are we going to experience? I had read about it. It sounded like an amazing hike, but had no idea what it would really feel like. And we came around this bin, I'll call it a bin. We came around, and it's like everything opened up, and then you could see the ocean. It was like right there, you could see the ocean right in front of us. And it's like my whole heart just opened up, and like the experience that you're talking about, that like my eyes were seeing the ocean, seeing this, having this feeling of awe, and it was coming back to me. And I feel like I was flooded with positive emotion. So, and then as I said to my husband, I'm like, we need to do this more often, because it makes us better people. It makes us stronger at the work we do. It connects the two of us. We're both seeing this beauty and experiencing it together. And that's all free, when you can go take a hike. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. Lovely.
Yeah. All right. Well, I love this topic. I am so glad we got to swim in it a bit. Are you ready to play 1, 2, 3 with me?
Let's do it.
All right. What is one mindset shift that you hope that our listeners might take away today, or shift their mind on?
Awe is possible in our everyday lives. And as we've talked about, it helps to build connection. So it's worth looking for.
Yeah. It's possible, it's accessible, and it connects. Yes. What are 2 ideas or facts? And I know you already shared such good research. So what are 2 ideas or facts that you just want to put the highlighter over?
Well, the first one for sure is, we've talked about that awe improves our health. It improves our mental health, and it empirically improves our physical health as well. The other thing is the idea of the extended now theory. And so feeling awe and getting into this sense of transcendence and what's possible can actually slow down our perception of time. And so I think a lot of people feel really strapped for time these days. Opening the door to awe can help us, again, recognize the abundance of the universe, but feel like they have a little more time. And who doesn't need that?
Exactly. I'm thinking after we hit end, I'm going out to experience the awe, get back some time. I like that. And what are 3 actions that people can plug and play now? I always end this way, because it's what's in it for me. What is something I can plug and play, and I'm going to feel better?
Get outside. We've mentioned that a couple of times. And even if it's just for a couple of minutes, just getting outside and getting some fresh air is a great way to get a quick reset. Take the scenic route. We talked about that a little bit. If you've got the flexibility and the luxury of a little bit of extra time, take a different way, whatever that might be, whether you're walking or driving or even just doing a task at work. And go see something phenomenal. See a phenomenal performance, whether it's music or sports or what have you. Get inspired.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Get outside, take the scenic route, and see somebody at their peak and revel in that. Yeah. Excellent. So just as our final, the what's in it for me, what's possible when somebody experiences awe?
We feel more connected as a human species.
Yep. And is there anything more important in life? Probably not.
I think not.
Niels, I love being with you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. The feeling is mutual. I'm always a better person getting to spend some time with you, Eileen. So thank you.